Some intellectuals spend their lives hidden safely inside books and universities. But every so often, a thinker steps directly into history's darkest moments and risks everything to confront the madness of humanity itself. This is void of context. Take a slow breath. Because the story of Bertrand Russell is not only about philosophy, it is about war, loneliness, love, prison, fear, and a man born into privilege who spent his entire life fighting the madness of humanity. He was an aristocrat, a mathematician, a philosopher, a public enemy, and one of the loudest voices for peace in the 20th century. Yet behind his calm intelligence lived a man haunted by sadness. A man who watched civilization destroy itself again and again. A man who believed human beings were capable of reason, but terrified that reason might never win. Before we begin, subscribe to Void of Context for more timeless stories about the thinkers, writers, and forgotten minds who shaped human history. Bertrand Russell was born in 1872 into one of the most powerful aristocratic families in Britain. His grandfather had once served as Prime Minister. His family belonged to the highest level of British society. From the outside, his future looked secure. But tragedy arrived early. His mother died when he was only 2 years old. His sister and father soon followed. By the age of 4, Russell had become an orphan. The child who would later speak to millions grew up surrounded mostly by silence. He was raised by his strict grandmother in a cold, aristocratic home filled with religious discipline and emotional distance. The house was grand, but emotionally, it felt empty. Russell later admitted that loneliness shaped his entire personality. As a teenager, he often thought about ending his own life. What stopped him was curiosity. He wanted to understand mathematics. He wanted to understand truth itself. That single desire kept him alive. Books became his escape. Logic became his refuge. While other boys searched for adventure, Russell searched for certainty. At Cambridge University, he discovered philosophy and mathematics at the highest level. For the first time, he found people who cared about ideas as deeply as he did. And soon, Russell became obsessed with a dangerous question. Could human thought itself be reduced to logic? Could mathematics become the foundation of perfect certainty? This obsession consumed decades of his life. Together with philosopher Alfred North Whitehead, Russell began writing one of the most ambitious intellectual works ever attempted. The result became Principia Mathematica. Thousands of pages, years of effort. An attempt to rebuild mathematics entirely through logic. The work became legendary, not because ordinary people read it, most never did, but because it changed philosophy, mathematics, and computer science forever. Russell believed clarity mattered more than mystery. He hated vague language. He hated intellectual dishonesty. To him, philosophy should not confuse people. It should illuminate reality. But while his intellectual influence grew, the world around him moved toward catastrophe. In 1914, Europe collapsed into the First World War. Millions celebrated the war with patriotic excitement. Governments spoke about honor and glory. Russell saw something different. He saw organized madness. He believed nationalism was pushing humanity toward suicide. And unlike many intellectuals of his time, he refused to stay silent. He publicly condemned the war. He criticized the British government. He spoke against military violence, while the entire country demanded loyalty. The consequences came quickly. Cambridge removed him from his teaching position. Newspapers attacked him. Many former friends abandoned him. Then the government imprisoned him. Bertrand Russell entered prison not as a criminal, but as a philosopher who refused to support war. Inside his prison cell, he continued writing. That detail reveals something important about Russell. He did not fight with weapons. He fought with ideas. And ideas frightened governments more than guns. Russell believed most wars were born from fear. Fear of difference. Fear of weakness. Fear manipulated by power. He watched ordinary people become willing participants in mass destruction simply because authority demanded obedience. This disturbed him deeply. Throughout his life, Russell remained suspicious of certainty, especially political certainty. He feared ideologies that promised absolute truth, because once humans believe they possess absolute truth, violence often follows. These ideas made him controversial almost everywhere. Religious groups attacked him because he criticized organized religion. Governments attacked him because he criticized war. Conservatives attacked him because he defended free thought. Radicals attacked him because he distrusted extremism. Yet Russell continued speaking. He believed intellectual honesty mattered more than popularity. His personal life, however, was far more chaotic than his public image suggested. Russell married multiple times. His relationships often collapsed painfully. He searched constantly for emotional peace, but rarely found it. Behind the brilliant philosopher stood a deeply restless human being. He wanted love. He wanted meaning. He wanted happiness. But intelligence alone could not protect him from emotional suffering. In many ways, Russell represented a modern contradiction. A man capable of understanding logic at the highest level, yet unable to fully solve the emotional confusion of ordinary life. Perhaps that is why people still connect with him today, because beneath the intellectual greatness was someone painfully human. During the rise of fascism in Europe, Russell again warned humanity about dangerous political movements. He saw how fear and propaganda could reshape entire societies. He watched millions surrender critical thinking in exchange for emotional certainty. The Second World War only deepened his sadness. Human civilization had learned almost nothing. And then came nuclear weapons. When the atomic bombs destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Russell understood immediately that humanity had entered a terrifying new era. For the first time in history, human beings possessed the power to erase civilization itself. This realization transformed the final decades of his life. Russell became one of the world's most famous anti-nuclear voices. He organized protests. He signed public statements. He warned repeatedly that humanity might destroy itself through its own technological power. In 1955, alongside Albert Einstein, he released the Russell-Einstein Manifesto. Its message was simple but chilling. Remember your humanity and forget the rest. Those words carried enormous emotional weight because Russell had spent decades watching humanity repeat the same mistakes. War, pride, fear, violence. Again and again. He believed science had advanced faster than human wisdom, and that imbalance terrified him. Russell did not hate technology. He admired science deeply. But he feared what happened when intelligence developed without morality. In many ways, his warnings now feel strangely modern. Today, humanity faces artificial intelligence, mass surveillance, digital manipulation, and global instability. And Russell's central question still remains unanswered. Can human reason overcome human fear? Or will emotion always overpower wisdom? One of Russell's greatest strengths was his ability to explain difficult ideas simply. He wrote for ordinary people, not only scholars. He believed philosophy should help people live better lives. He spoke openly about happiness, fear, education, love, and freedom. And perhaps his most important message was this: do not surrender your mind to authority. Question everything, especially ideas that demand blind obedience. Russell believed doubt was healthy, not weakness. To him, the willingness to question beliefs represented intellectual courage. That idea made him dangerous, but also timeless. As he grew older, Russell became something rare, not merely a philosopher inside universities, but a global public intellectual. He appeared on television, gave speeches, led demonstrations, debated world leaders. Even in old age, his voice remained calm but urgent. He understood that civilization itself was fragile. Beneath modern society, he saw ancient human instincts still operating: fear, tribalism, aggression, power. And he feared those instincts could destroy everything humanity had built. Yet Russell never fully surrendered to despair. That may be the most remarkable part of his story. Despite war, prison, political hatred, personal heartbreak, and global violence, he continued believing human beings could improve. Not perfectly, but gradually, through education, through reason, through compassion. Near the end of his life, Russell had become one of the most famous philosophers on earth. He won the Nobel Prize in Literature. His books spread across the world. His ideas shaped generations of thinkers. But fame never erased the loneliness inside him. In old photographs, his eyes often looked tired, reflective, almost sorrowful, as if he carried the emotional weight of an entire century. Bertrand Russell died in 1970 at the age of 97. He had lived through empires, revolutions, 2 world wars, and the birth of the nuclear age. And until his final years, he never stopped warning humanity about itself. Perhaps that is his true legacy. Not mathematics, not philosophy, not politics, but moral courage. The courage to stand against war when the crowd demands violence. The courage to question authority when obedience feels safer. The courage to defend reason inside a frightened world. Russell understood something deeply uncomfortable. Human civilization is fragile because the human mind is fragile. Fear spreads faster than wisdom. Anger spreads faster than understanding. And yet, he still believed thought mattered, that ideas mattered, that one honest voice refusing madness could still make a difference. Maybe that belief is why his story continues to survive, because even now, humanity still stands between reason and destruction, between compassion and fear, between wisdom and chaos. And somewhere inside that struggle, Bertrand Russell's voice still echoes quietly through history. Remember your humanity and forget the rest. Thank you for watching Void of Context. If this story moved you, share your thoughts below. What do you think Bertrand Russell feared most about humanity? And for the next story, we travel into the life of another extraordinary thinker, a man who transformed psychology forever while battling the darkness inside his own mind. Carl Jung, the doctor who explored the shadow.